Hi, welcome to my retirement roadmap. This is the first in a series of videos discussing what I'm terming legal documents. And most people kind of know this as estate planning. Okay. Now, disclaimers here. This is educational only. This is not any individual advice. And before you take any action based on what you learn from these sessions, then I strongly recommend you work with a professional, whether that's a legal, tax, or financial professional before you take any action. This is definitely important. Again, this is just educational. Additionally, I want to also point out that I am not a lawyer. I do not have any legal training. So here we are talking about what really is mostly legal stuff going on here. So this is important to note. I am not a lawyer, not an attorney. However, I do have two credentials that I want to talk about here. One of them is that I am an investment advisor representative. I am licensed/registered with the state of California. So that has to do with investments and finances. The other credential I have, I'm an enrolled agent with the IRS. So I have a tax background, and the IRS recognizes that, and I have to renew that and do my continuing education, etc. So I wanted to say I do have those two credentials. When it comes to estate planning, okay, these all three areas overlap, and I'm trying to cover two of the three. And like I say, as a financial advisor, financial planner, whatever you want to call, okay, I think it's my responsibility to make sure my clients are taking care of their legal documents here, so that when they pass on, what they want and what is the most efficient will happen simply and correctly. So that's the idea here. Personally, I don't really like talking about this stuff. Probably I like to talk about it less than you like to listen to it. But anyway, we're gonna give it a try here. I'm going to attempt to use some humor, some good stories that will make this a little bit more palatable as we go along. Also, here in the beginning, I want to make another shout out to a book called How to Retire by Christine Benz. And in that book, she interviews several people, experts in their areas, to talk about different aspects of retirement. And I think it's the next to the last chapter is when this this estate planning is discussed. And she's actually interviewing a lawyer, so you can get that perspective as well. So I highly recommend that as well when you're trying to learn more about this. Okay, so I wanted to also talk a little bit about what are the top three items. Excuse me, I say three, but I've added a couple more here. So we're going to talk about the top 5 objectives that I want to cover in these videos. This is like, I hope by the time we get through all of this, that you will have these I will have met these objectives. The first is that you will consider a revocable trust in your planning. Okay, if you don't already have a revocable trust, which is sometimes known as a revocable living trust, that you will get one. You will consider one. Okay, that's the first objective. The second objective I want here is that you will check your retirement account beneficiaries. It's important to look at those. I'm hoping after you get through this, like, I need you to spend 10 minutes and go look this up. Make sure something's not funny there. So that's the second objective. The third, if you do have pets, I'd like for people to plan for these pets. I'm going to plan for my pets so that they're taken care of. That's important for me. That is, candidly, that's one of the most important parts for my estate planning is the pets. Fourth, I really would like for folks to say, to go through this and to say, hey, these videos aren't great. They're not bad. But they're okay. They'll do. And I'm hoping that you say, hey, listen, I'm going to share these with parents. If you have parents who are living, go ahead and say, take a listen to this. Ty's a strange dude. He really is. But, he's talking about this stuff, and maybe this will make that a little bit more interesting to parents for their estate planning. Even if they've got everything in place, they can kind of listen to this, check on things, make sure everything's up to scratch. Because if you're kind of like I am, and I'm in the middle, right? I have parents. I should say I have in-laws who are still alive. Okay, uh, my parents have both passed, but I have in-laws who are still alive, who I care for and love very much, and we want to make sure that their estate planning is up to scratch. Okay, and then if you have children, okay, so on the other side, if you we don't have any children, but if you do have children, you can also say, hey, listen to this stuff, because as parents, if we have parents that have children, they need to know that we're looking into this, and they need to understand what the expectations are for them as children and how you've got this done. The other thing is obviously if you have parents, and you're probably more than likely going to need to step in with their estate planning and all that, and cover that. So that's what I'm saying is share this video with those your parents above you and children below you type of thing. That's where I'm going with this. I think that's important. And I was at the risk of being too wordy at this point, I will also say that, my parents, when they were alive, they were especially my mother, she was very good. She's like, okay, Ty, here's the packet. This is our estate plans. You need to be aware of what's going on. Okay. So this is well over 15 years ago. So I took that stuff, didn't look at it, shoved it in the safe. I don't want to deal with it. I don't even want to know. That was the way I handled it, which was a mistake, right? But it's the way I did. However, in this video, if you say, go listen to this, I mean, it's kind of crazy, but go ahead and listen to this. I think that will help folks kind of address this topic that isn't necessarily something that people really want to deal with. Okay. Finally, I'd like to say one of my objectives is that when we end this, you're going to start looking into and researching ways to share your estate information, because this is really important. All right. It's like there's tons of information, bank accounts, if you have a will, trust, all these things. But where are they? How do you share this with somebody who's going to have to handle this when you pass away? Finally, I want to. I was trying to think about how would this make this resonate with folks, and here's kind of where I've come up with, and this helps. This really does help me the way I look at this estate planning. Okay, Jeff, my partner Jeff, and I, we were actually legally married, so that this tip same thing for any married couple when we talk about this estate planning. Just wanted that to be clear. But anyway, so we're getting ready to go on another cruise. Last year we went on two back-to-back cruises, 24 days on a ship. A little bit long for me, but we did. And we're out of the country. We want to make sure everything's up ready to go in case something happens to us. And we're getting ready to go again. And I'd like to think our estate's in good hands. If something happens to us, we've got it covered. And I know for those people are saying, the odds are it's like 99% chance that when you die, it's like within a couple of miles of your house, most likely in your house, if not within a couple of miles. But it just makes for a better story. We're on a cruise ship. The cruise ship goes down, we're toast. Okay, and this is where I'm going with this. I'm trying to set the stage, and we'll kind of use this as we go through these videos. But here we are. So the ship's gone down. We're done. Okay, so our bodies, the brain's flatline, the body, there's no more heartbeat. We're toast. But I didn't know this kind of gets into a spiritual area, and I think financial planners, we're really, there's an unwritten rule: don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. But for this, I think we can make a slight exception. We're talking about kind of spiritual side here for a minute. So most people I know and hang around with and talk to, they believe there's something beyond. So it doesn't like once you die, brain's gone, body's gone. It isn't that the lights are out. There's nothing else happens. Most people, we all think something else is going to happen. We're still, our soul or our spirit, or what you want to call it, is still around. So that's part of this setup, this stage that I want people to kind of think about. So now we're on the other side. And we're going to be able to watch what happens with our estate. and how, the trustees, the successor trustees, or the executor, or how the courts are involved, and I think it's really important you think about it that way. What's going to happen? And it's like, because some people say, why do I care about estate planning? I'm dead. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me one way or the other. However, if you think about this and you say, "Hey, I'm really still going to be around, and you're going to be watching this all unfold," you might end up feeling, kind of crappy that oops, I so should have done that better, and now I've saddled this person with a bunch of garbage, and it just isn't very good. So I know I'm playing the guilt card. I need to dial that back a little bit. But anyway, that's where I'm going with this. Let's just pretend now that we passed, and we're going to see how this unfolds and how well we did with this estate planning information. All right. That is basically the introduction that I wanted to give for this first video. I've got everything set up. So I will then meet you on the next video where we start talking about some state documents as part of our estate planning.